morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching our podcast. I am Jeff England from the Fort Johnson Public Affairs Office, and we are coming to you from the Fort Johnson Public Affairs Podcast Studio. Today, we are going to be talking about Suicide Prevention Month. It's more important than just a week or a day. This is something that is very important to all of us because even one is too many. But with me today, I have two very special guests. I have Lieutenant Colonel Alex Reagan. He is the Fort Johnson Director of Psychological Health. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. When is it's sometime? Good morning, sir. Oh, wait, got to get your mic so we can hear you too. All right, and with him we've got Krista Zayas. She's with DHR. She's the Suicide Prevention Program Coordinator because I guess they don't manage over there; they coordinate.
That's right.
So how are you guys doing? Good to have you in there.
Doing well. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, doing great. Really happy to be here. Thanks for.
Yeah, I've been trying to get you in here forever, and you just seem to be a little too busy to come on in, and you got lots to do. I see you everywhere.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So yes.
So we've got Suicide Prevention Month is every year, and it is a very important thing. I'm sure you have some events coming up that are made to help people be aware of the month and the problem that we have, in addition to, I'm sure it's to help recognize signs and give you ideas on what you can do to help, because if you lose somebody through this, it's devastating. It's devastating to everybody. The one person might have fixed all of their problems, but they just transferred them to everyone else. So what is Fort Johnson doing to help reduce this problem that and it's not just here, but everywhere?
Sir, first, one is thanks for having us. Some of this, as you said, this is a extremely important topic, and September is a national pause to look at a very significant problem that we have, not just in the Army, but really everywhere. So here at JRTC Fort Johnson, we practice and get after suicide prevention every day. But for the month of September, we take an extra special pause to, one, remember those that we have lost, and then look forward to engaging those who may be suffering, and then also looking at how we can help ourselves if maybe we're struggling as well. So that's what I think when I think about September, as we're right kind of in the middle of it right now.
So when there is a suicide, what do we do to learn from what happened? Is there, what can be done to learn? It's like, well, here's the signs that we missed. Here's the problems that they were going through. Here's where we can help in the future.
Yeah, so after we have a completed suicide, there are a number of meetings and reports that we do. And it's really to look overall at what were the signs, like you said, that we potentially missed. What are things that we can do going forward to recognize those signs, and then what agencies can we pair up with so that way our training is effective. I will tell you that one of the biggest, what we call risk factors right now with our completed suicides are relationship issues. And so we're really trying to pair with ACS, we're trying to pair with the chaplains, behavioral health, to really talk about what are relationship issues, what are stresses that happen in a relationship that then cause possibly that relationship to dissolve or to cause additional stressors, and how can we work through those stressors so that way an individual doesn't think that suicide is their only resort to that.
Now, are there any things that come to mind when it is a relationship? Is it does it tend to be more of the earlier relationships? This is my first love, my first wife, my first husband. Is that not correlated at all, or have you not seen any of those correlations?
So that's something we definitely look into, looking at all the factors of it. But I think just in general, there's no true data or signs showing that it was just the first love or any of that. So it's just relationships in general.
Yeah, the suicidality, crosses all ages and demographics. There are some trends where they talk about, people who between 18 to 24, based on just their own life experiences, based on just, time that as long as they've been alive, they may have limitations just on how they manage stress, right? And what they've learned through the life of how to adapt and overcome difficult things. Or somebody who's been older usually has had more life experience, or possibly coping skills that work more efficiently. So as we talk with people, we're always talking about, what are early warning signs? What are some of the more crisis where you need to intervene maybe in the moment? And then what are things to look at even in yourself, so that if you're struggling, to get help as well?
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed about the younger generation. I guess it's Gen Z, and Gen Alpha is coming up now. But their coping skills, they're lacking in coping skills, and having to learn how to deal with disappointment and heartbreak and things like that. What, if anything, is being done to combat or help educate the younger generation with coping, just in general, coping? I mean, coping face-to-face, interpersonal skills, relationship skills, disappointment, being told no.
So one of the things I want to talk about with that is, one, I want to tie in what our theme for this year is, because I think that's really important. So our theme this year is Connect to Protect, We Are Stronger Together. And I think that kind of goes back to some of the ways that they cope is, I tell folks we weren't designed or meant to do life by ourselves. We were meant to have people in our corner. And so I think that this year's theme, I think it signifies that we should be connecting with other individuals, that we should have friends and family and support or resources that we can lean in on when we are struggling, when we are having a hard time with whatever it may be, whether it be work, whether it be our personal life, whether it be, like you said, maybe being told no, and that's just not what we want to hear, but having that team, that village, so to say, to back you up.
And the Army is, one big group, right? So being in the Army for more than a few years now and talking to many people in different phases of their life, it's hard to be successful in the Army on your own, right? You need a team. You need people to work with you and you work with to be successful. So we're always talking and preaching when we do our trainings, when we have discussions, when we come to units, or the units come to us. Is having conversation, and then how to do it in a purposeful way, to be able to look at somebody who's just different than how they usually are, because you know them a little better. So now you're being able to ask questions of, hey, you usually like to do these things, and now I'm noticing you're not doing them anymore. Are you okay? And for the person on the receiving end of those questions to be confident in that relationship that they have with that person, to be open and honest and say, hey, you know what, I'm actually kind of struggling, and to be able to know how to work together to find either some solutions, or to know when it's beyond kind of that peer support, to then look at, well, what are the resources that are available? And in the Army, there's lots of them, whether it's your chain of command, whether it's your embedded chaplain or your MFLAC, your non-medical services, or even being able to come down to BJAC and look to the 6th floor of behavioral health, or primary care, where we have a couple of social workers, or ACS, right, where we have a plethora of family advocacy services, financial services, again, MFLACs, non-medical services there. There's many doors that people can walk through, and we just want to make sure that they kind of have that no closed door, right? Every door is open. Come on in. we'll talk to you, and then if we're not the exact right resource, then we'll get you to the right one.
The closed door thing, all the doors are open. Well, it kind of gets hard when you have like personal things that you're saying. So if you see the closed door, that just means they're in with somebody right now. But you could come back and they can always help, because somebody's always available to help. Just remember that this is it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Everything passes except for Gandalf. But the whole thing about it, and it shouldn't just be a month. I just can't see a month being long enough.
Well, so we always advertise that suicide prevention is year-round, right? It's just that September is where we highlight suicide prevention in the fact of we want to, one, talk openly and directly about it. Two, we want to make sure that people understand that there are resources available. There are 24/7 resources available as well, such as the 988 for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is not only a call number, but it's also a text number, which I think is really important for people to understand that if they are struggling to say those words out loud, that they can text that as well, and somebody will respond. And then it's also a time to look back and remember those that we have lost to suicide, to raise awareness. And as we're raising awareness throughout the process, we're also trying to combat that stigma so people are comfortable reaching out for help, whether it is mental health issues or whether it is suicide. They're reaching out and saying, hey, I'm not doing okay. I need to talk to somebody.
Right. And we have, again, a whole gamut of services, and the privilege that I have of being the installation asset to have visibility on all the behavioral health resources. It goes from behavioral health from the front end of just self-help, all the way through somebody who may need to go to the hospital for 24-hour, 7-day-a-week care for a short period of time. So in that, somebody can, when they're looking at your mental health care and how well you're doing, it could be just going in and optimizing your mental health. Like, you're doing okay, but you're kind of like, hey, can I do a little bit better? Somebody who is focusing on their nutrition, focusing on their exercise, their sleep, kind of 3 foundational areas to pay attention to. That if you're struggling with those things, especially all of them, that's something to kind of just do some self-check and say, okay, what can I change or do differently to improve my quality of life? And if those kind of things aren't working, then who can I talk to? And we have a wonderful program called Protect, which is a peer support program where people get extra training. Actually, in part of it, I have the patch. Like, you'll see a lot of soldiers walking around posts that have those extra skills and awareness to intervene. And then for people to be able to see that and say, oh, I can go talk to that person. They may be able to talk to anybody, but these guys are just out there amongst the crowd and saying, hey, I'm approachable, come talk to me. So those are all kind of, again, that front line.
Yeah, it's just, the Army spends so much time training, and there's so many things to train on, but when it comes to the self-help and the mental health and all that, it seems like the people don't want to get into that training, but yet there's so many classes, so much help out there just to learn coping skills and learn arguing skills and to be a better arguer. No, and to learn how to not have such a horrible argument and not to go to sleep mad and all that stuff. Where were the classes to help things like that? Or if somebody's interested in becoming a specialist to be able to talk to or volunteer or whatever, where would we go to find stuff like that?
So the Protect program itself is managed through the Installation SHARP office. It's not just a SHARP initiative, but they have oversight of it. So going to your SHARP or your SARC or your victim advocate within your unit is a great place to start. They can help get you signed up. The members of command, because they get vetted through the command team, to be accepted into this peer program. So that would be the best way, at least for that program itself, the Protect program. However, just getting into services itself, going down to R2PC, going through their optimization, they're very much performance experts. So they do a lot on the non-medical prevention side and just walking in. They're the ones that train our master resiliency trainers, but they do a lot more than that. They're over by Wheelock Gym, if you're familiar with that area of Post. And then even going down into some of our other non-medical services like ACS, walking in to see one of the non-medical counselors, financial assistance. You may be doing okay financially, but maybe you want to do better. Like, you want to do more than just living a couple of paychecks ahead. You want to start looking into getting involved in larger savings, just way to be preventative and optimize, how you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, look for that unforeseen emergency or something.
Right. It just makes life a little more tolerable, because there's always going to be kind of good and bad experiences, and having some positivity. And MRT is all about positive psychology, so it's all about not to catastrophize, right? Not to make things worse than they are. Not worrying about things that really haven't happened, because you're kind of paying a debt of something that hasn't occurred through worrying. So it's not really all that helpful. But we all do it at times. And that's where I think people who know you well, that can kind of bring that to your attention if you're not recognizing yourself. Even then going down to maybe more concerning behavior like substance use, right? Misusing alcohol, misusing prescription medication, even getting into, illegal activity that can, may seem like something that helps with coping, but it's got a lot of bad outcomes and it's got a lot of problems associated with it.
Yeah, and then you get into that self-medicating and all that stuff.
Right.
Now, we put a lot of emphasis on looking for the signs and helping those get through this and all that stuff. What I've noticed, or what I see also, is after something like that happens, there are still victims, and now they're going through something. And I've seen one suicide lead to another because of the first one. And it goes back to coping and all that stuff. But what kind of help is there to have for those that are survivors of suicide?
So when it comes to a suicide survivor support program, we do have our survivor outreach program here on the installation, and they can assist directing individuals to other support groups. We also have the chaplains who do a fabulous job at being able to sit down and have those conversations when you're really struggling. We always have the behavioral health. We have our MFLACs that also support individuals who are struggling and just trying to process the grief of what they're experiencing after losing somebody to suicide. So
I would imagine that a lot of people blame themselves, and it's like, I should have seen this, what happened, and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So anytime, suicide is a really hard thing it's a very complex situation, right? And anytime we have a completed suicide, I think there is a lot of self-doubt. There's a lot of self-blame. I should have seen the signs. I could have done something more. I should have done this. I should have done that. And I think when it comes to suicide, a lot of times it's really hard to accept it, right? Because that was a decision that somebody made. It wasn't an accident that happened. And so trying to understand there's a lot of unanswered questions, which I think also feeds into that
now,
grief.
The other things that I've seen, sometimes, or most of the times, the signs are so subtle or non-existent, because what I've seen and my experience in the past is I've noticed that people that actually talk about it and threaten it and blah, blah, blah and stuff like that, they're the ones looking for help, is what I've noticed. And the ones that go through with it, you never see it coming, or it's like the common theme or the common comment that I hear is, we didn't see any of the signs. We didn't see anything. Have you noticed anything that that people that are looking for help will show the signs, and the people that are just dead set on it it's going to happen?
I think most people will say that first they always want to try to kind of do it themselves, because they feel like, again, I don't want to be a burden on anybody, right? I don't want to make somebody else have to deal with my stuff. And also the piece about, I don't know what you're going to do when I tell you this information. Do I matter enough for somebody to actually stop and listen and then be present and available, right? And then have that care and concern to talk with me versus trying to fix it or just make me feel better. Sometimes it's just, I just want to talk, right? I don't really need you to fix anything. And oftentimes there's no quick fix to what you're struggling with, because it's usually compounded over multiple things. It just hasn't resolved to your satisfaction, right? So that burden, that feeling like they don't matter, which oftentimes isn't accurate, but when you're kind of stuck in that dark place of things not going right, of just noticing just the bad stuff, right? You kind of lose sight of the good things going on around you, right? Those the more negative, right, perspectives of the world, and just having somebody come by and just be like, it's okay, tell me more, right? As somebody who we encourage when they get the trainings that we do, it's not to talk more or just badger them with a bunch of questions, but to just talk less and listen more.
People want me to talk less a lot. But I've noticed, I've seen some things it gets out of control. Like if you're looking for something, you're going to find it. So people look for the negative, and they're going to find it. And they look for somebody looked at me wrong, and they take it as in, well, this person hates me, or no, my job isn't good enough. I can never do good enough. I'm always wrong. Blah. It's like, come on. One of the things that I've learned is, what proof do you have of that? It was that simple. It's like, well, what proof? What proof do you have that they're not happy with your work? What proof are you always wrong? You were right the other day. You were right once back in 1979, so it's not always. But but there's always some kind of help. Is what everybody that I've talked to that's the common theme. There's always help, and there's always an alternative solution.
So I think it's a really good thing to talk about the fact of how much strength it actually takes to ask for help. A lot of times, like Colonel Reagan said, people don't want to be bothered. They don't want to burden other individuals with what they have going on. They just assume that they can do it all on their own, and then before they know it, they're overwhelmed, and they can't do it anymore. And so I think it takes a lot of strength to sit and say, you know what, I need help with this. And it's everything, right? Not just our mental health, not just suicide prevention, but even your physical fitness, right? If you need help running, saying, hey, I can't do this, I need help, you reach out and you get to somebody who is better at it than what you are.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. It's like, I don't need your help. I can do this on my own. And my wife is the exact opposite. She has no problem asking me for help. It's like she drives home. I need help bringing stuff in. I come home and I walk through the door with 15 bags on each arm, trying to carry it all in one spot. And it's like, no, I got it. It's like, so, I mean, maybe that's a little off topic, but
I think it brings up a great point, right? When we feel like we can do it all on our own, we don't want to burden others. But bringing in just the groceries alone, right? You can hurt yourself just doing that.
Right. I would 100% agree. And I think in the military, being medical, right? So there are certain things you have to do to maintain readiness. And the suicide prevention program for the Army is all about readiness, right? And developing and enhancing, the suicide prevention program, the policies, the strategic communication, all the things we're doing today, for example, in those efforts. But yeah, it boils down to sometimes it's just those characteristics. Like I'm the same way. Like it's like a game for me to take in all my groceries in one trip.
Yep.
You know,
Especially when you live on like the third floor or something.
right. But if you play that out in other areas of your life and you're like, hey, give it to me, I can take it, and you just load up, as long as it's the things that are expected, like you usually do okay. Like you may struggle a little, right? You might pull a muscle, but you'll typically do okay. But then when that extra thing that you weren't expecting comes along and it causes you to have to put some bags down and you're trying to figure out what to do, or you got to look at your neighbor who's offering to help, because that's another key to this is to the people who are the helpers to be approachable, right? Do I do and say things that make somebody who's struggling be willing to give me some of their bags to help them carry it because they got something new going on that's just can't do it all. And they're finally asking for help, even if it's something simple like grocery bags. You know, it can be really hard for people, right? Or opening a door for somebody. You know, some people like it and some people don't. But it's like when you need it, are you able to ask for it? Or if somebody's offering it because they know your hands are full, you know, are you willing to accept the help? Which is really the third and really the most important part, is coming to make, if you do utilize services, make those appointments and then come to those appointments.
Yeah, making it. Yeah.
You know, because that's, again, half the battle is just showing up. You know, so show up, listen to what they have to offer, whether it's a battle buddy, a command, you know, somebody in the community. Doesn't mean they're going to be right all the time because you're the expert in your life, but they bring a lot of expertise from working with a lot of people with similar situations. And they probably got some good suggestions that have worked with other folks. Find that common ground. And then the key is to try something different, right? Because you're trying to improve your quality of life because you're not satisfied, right? And the people who are talking to you are like, hey, man, we think you could be doing better. You're not the way you usually are, right? Noticing some of those signs and symptoms. Doesn't mean everybody's suicidal, but again, it's those things that can pile up and compound. And then you start worrying about like, you know, man, I just need to feel better. I'm getting overwhelmed. My stress is maxed out, right? Maybe I got some kind of pain, core pain, like the relationship problems that we mentioned. And then you're like, and I can't handle it anymore. I need to feel better. And that's where, as you mentioned, the permanent solution to a temporary problem, where they think, and some people it crosses their mind, right? Well, I could always kill myself, right? Maybe I'd be better if I didn't wake up. And those kind of thoughts, you know, although having them is worrisome, talking to people about it so it doesn't go into, well, and this is how I might do it, and this is what I have to be successful, right? And again, in the Army and in the world, firearms are just such a big part of our lives, but it's also the number one killer of someone who's trying to kill himself uses a weapon. And we talk all the time about lethal means safety, and I know that's a big thing for the suicide prevention team. So I know you have a thing for that, so I didn't want to steal your thunder on it. But it's just a big deal to do. You don't want to mix weapons with feeling bad, and you definitely don't want to add in alcohol. All those things kind of coming together can create an opportunity that's dangerous. So we always want to, I'm going to kind of double tap it because it's such a big deal not to mix those things.
Now, are you guys planning on any events? I know that there were events in September, but we're at the end of September now. Are there any coming up for the holidays? Since I have a feeling that's kind of a important time of the year also.
Well, so we've been doing events throughout the month of September. All of the units are also doing their own events internally. I know we also reach out to DeRitter High School has reached out to us. This will be the third annual suicide prevention that they have done at the end of September, where we have volunteers from our installation and from our community that go out and talk to the high schoolers about suicide prevention. Since in the state of Louisiana, when we look at the average or median age for those who die by suicide, we actually have a pretty low number, which is the age of 16 tends to be our average in the state of Louisiana. So I think it's really great that the high school has reached out to us and that we can provide that additional support to them. Also, I know Colonel Reagan is doing a fantastic event. Sir, you want to talk about that event that you have?
Yeah, so in that, so at BJAC, the hospital here at Fort Johnson, on the 25th of September from 8 to 10, we're doing kind of a reverse open house. We're bringing in community members, stakeholders from the installation on each of our 7 floors with ways to answer questions, have handouts, talk about the services they have to offer for our beneficiaries, our staff, command teams to come in and just kind of socialize with us on a meaningful day, and then them go back out of the either curiosity of more information about it, or ways to help other people, or ways to even help themselves, to then go back to those services. So we got like ACS coming out, and SHARP, and the MFLAX, ASAP, R2PC for installation, and then we got people coming from our community partners. We got our Longleaf and Brentwood, some of our hospitals, Oceans, just different Long Branch as well, just different programs coming in that are big community supports, because as our motto for this year is, right, to connect, to protect, we're stronger together isn't just about individuals, but it's about communities, and that's just a big plug. And one of the reasons that I wanted to come to this state and be in this installation is just that the Southern hospitality and the connectedness and family environment.
Nice. And once again, if somebody's having a problem or is having thoughts, what was that number? The 988?
Yes. So the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 988. And again, that is a text number and a call number. So it is available 24/7, 365. So anybody who is possibly struggling, or maybe you're just really uncertain and you need somebody to talk to, that is a really great number that you can reach out to for support.
All right. Well, Colonel Reagan and Krista Zayas, appreciate you guys coming in and talking about this. I'd like to have you back sometime. We could talk more. Maybe we can get some calls in. Maybe do a live show, and have people call in or email or text us and stuff like that. See what's on people's minds, and that might be really helpful. And also, thanks for all the work that you're doing over there. And I hope one day we can get down to 0. That'd be nice. And guys, I really thank you for coming in. And once again, hopefully you'll come back and talk to me again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
All right. And also, once again, if you're having any problems or any thoughts that might not be helpful to you, please pick up that phone, dial 988, get the help that you need. You don't need to have a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Also, if you have, please leave a comment, leave a like, hit subscribe, hit notify, and we'll be seeing and listening and watching at you later.
That was easy.